Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of the Masters Union podcast. Today we have some news to share with you. We are launching a very special new program which I doubt anyone ever imagined we would actually start. We are super excited about this program and I will not divulge too much more. But to tell you more about it, I have today with us one of my very close friends, Swati Ganeti. Swati is an IIT Delhi alum. Thereafter, she worked in management consulting at Bain for almost 5 years, after which she did her MBA from Wharton. She came back and became the chief of staff to Karan Bajaj, who ran White Hat Junior. And thereafter, she started her own company called Softclay. And recently, she's come on board with Masters Union to launch a new program, which we'll get into more depth of in this podcast. How's it going, Swati?
Going well, Pratham. I really appreciate what you've been able to achieve at Masters Union.
No, it's just the beginning.
Yeah, it's just the beginning of a great education reform, I would say.
Yeah, let's see, what we are able to make of it.
Yeah.
But I guess we have a big news today for our viewers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to say it? Should I say it?
You go ahead.
So I think, Masters Union was always started as a business school, right?
Yeah.
And we, of course, started with the MBA equivalent program, which is a 1 year, 16-month program. And we have had almost 2 cohorts out, and the third cohort is currently undergoing that program. And we have seen some phenomenal results.
Mm-hmm.
But really, our vision was always to be a full stack business school, if I can use that word, right?
Yeah.
And undergraduate business program was always in our pipeline, was always in our dreams.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to make it a reality this year.
Yeah. No, very, very glad we are doing that. And I completely resonate with what, you were saying that day, that if in 1 year you have been able to transform these students and get them in these companies as leaders, right? What can we do with people when we have them for 4 years, especially when you have them at a tender age, when the personality is still being formed, right? When they're still a teenager. Mm-hmm. So I think it's an amazing step that, we at Masters Union have taken.
No. That's number one. Number two, you have good undergraduate engineering colleges in India. You went to IIT Delhi, you know exactly what that means.
Yes.
You have great post-grad business programs in India. You have IIMs, ISB, you have Masters Union.
Yes.
You also have post-grad engineering schools in India. You have IITs again. But if you really think about undergraduate business programs, beyond a couple of names, you can't think of many more. Would you agree with that?
No, I completely agree. And I haven't understood why our IIMs haven't been able to launch undergrad program, though they have great postgraduate programs, right? But I think that was a step much needed in India. I see a lot of students going abroad to get quality undergrad business education.
It's going to be 9 lakh students this year. You know that?
Oh, wow. The number has already gone to 9 lakhs.
9 lakhs. I think it was like 2-3 lakhs when we were in college.
Yeah. 3-4 years back, it was like 6 lakhs.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think COVID kind of brought it down and then it's back up.
Revenge study. No, it's super interesting because I think at the undergraduate level, if you think about business programs, let's say you're a class 12 student.
Yeah.
And you don't want to become an engineer, right? Out of the 1 crore people who enter into higher education every year, only 15 lakh become engineers, or less than 15 lakh become engineers, right?
Yeah.
AIEEE, some 20 lakh people sit, not all of them become engineers.
Correct.
Right. So almost 80-85 lakh people are thinking about non-engineering.
Yes.
And if you remove 1 lakh of law, 1 lakh of fashion design and design.
And some medical as well.
Some medical. Still you have 80 lakh students who are choosing to get into the business field.
Right? Or humanities.
Yeah. So between BCom, BBA and BA, you have almost 80 lakh people.
Correct.
And what are the top schools that you can name? They're not as high quality as IIM is for MBA.
Correct.
Or IIT Delhi is for engineering.
Correct. No, that's absolutely true. You can't really name one institute that would probably be equivalent to your international business schools, right? Some of the schools have come up in liberal arts in India, but not in business.
But do you think that what we are teaching in postgrad, let me put it a different way. Do you think business should be taught at the undergraduate level, or should undergraduate studies should be more about liberal arts or more fundamental sciences, and business is something that you should only learn at a master's level? I've heard this argument. What are your sort of thoughts about this?
No, I don't think so. See, there's a combination of hard skills and soft skills, right? And soft skills is lifelong learning. I can't say that, hey, I've learned it in my MBA and I'm done. But the hard skills like accounting, the hard skills like what's the psychology when you're trying to influence somebody,
Consumer
right?
psychology, yeah.
Or how do you even conduct a consumer research, right? Or what is digital marketing, the tools behind it? Or what's product management, right? All these cool words that we hear, and these are the upcoming jobs that are getting the topmost salaries. I think they can very well be taught in undergrad. And more if you teach in undergrad, the younger they kind of catch it, right? And understand these new age businesses. So absolutely required.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think I agree with that, because I think like very few people in their lifetimes are going to become astronauts, are going to become lawyers, are going to become even engineers for that matter.
Or doctors
for that matter. But most people will become businessmen. Even a doctor will become a businessman eventually, right? When he opens up its own clinic.
Yeah.
So I feel like business is so much more fundamental to life than even engineering.
And it's all around you.
It's all around you.
Yeah.
If you understand marketing, you also get to know how like the brands are playing with your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. How this ad is using the concept of persuasion or exaggerated
biases,
comedy. Yeah, absolutely. I think my worldview post my MBA classes just changed completely because you could see the tricks being played out.
So you did your undergrad in engineering.
Yeah.
Right. Do you wish you had done it in business after you finish your MBA?
I think for me, going to IIT was an experience in itself. Whether I did engineering or whether I did business is, I think, a less of a concern. I think in India, most of the colleges play around the peer community that they give you and the kind of extra currics that they give you, right? So at IIT, I was so much involved in dramatics and, being the leader of your hostel and being the president of the cultural club, that you learned a lot of these skills just by doing. Right? So maybe I wasn't learning what organizational behavior is, but when you're leading a team of 10 people, you pretty much are learning
how to... subliminally learn,
You learn it, right? So I think IIT gave me that, and there was a lot of flexibility of choosing the courses. Yes, I wish I had done a lot of the management courses because I ended up joining a management consulting firm, and I used a lot of those techniques there, like how to structure an email, what should your communication be, how do you present to clients, but eventually learn that on the job. So not that you missed out on something, but it's good to learn it in the classroom as well.
So would it be safe to say that, what you took from your IIT experience was more the out-class component rather than the in-class component?
Oh, absolutely. I think within the first year of my graduation, I didn't remember a lot of my engineering classes. Right? So I just forgot everything. Yeah. And what I remembered was how I led teams, how I, was motivating my juniors to stand up for the hostel and all of those. Yeah.
I see. And so what are your judgments? See, I did not do my undergrad in India, right? So I have less context there, but I'm sure a lot of your friends did their undergrad in like business schools in India, Delhi University, etc.
Yeah.
What do you feel were their biggest, not complaints, but what were some of the disadvantages that they faced as they were doing their undergrad in India?
Yeah, I think one of the disadvantages is definitely the lack of extra curricular or the student life, right? Not each college focuses on that. And even, today when companies look for placement, and I was heading the undergrad placements at Bain & Company as well, a lot of times we just prioritize the college or, the campus that the student went to, irrespective of whether the student has done a BCom or a BTech or a BBA. Like that just didn't matter to us, right? Because we know that this college is known to groom the child in this way, and this is the peer community that they have, and that's all we cared for, right? So I think one of the misses of a lot of people would be the in-class curriculum for sure, because the classes are not being given equal weightage because the companies know that they're going to train them themselves. Right. And then apart from your topmost colleges, none of the other ones are focusing on these extra student life or student activities.
The in-class components, what you're learning from a teacher, I mean, unless it's a practitioner teaching or unless it's a professor who really keeps herself or himself updated through, working with the industry, it's very hard for them to teach like real stuff at the end of the day.
No, Absolutely, right? Even today, if you go to an MBA college in India, when you're studying marketing, you're still studying the 4 Ps and you're still studying the retail channels. Whereas 90% of brands have moved online now, right? And when I had to actually, despite doing my MBA at Wharton, when I had to run a marketing team at my previous company, I literally started from scratch about learning how a digital marketing on Facebook works. Like I'd never run a Facebook ad, which is surprising. Like I should have ideally.
Right. So the in-class syllabus that we are being taught is sort of like still far away from what is actually needed in the industry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But tell me, like, what are the top 2 or 3 things that you think you learned about education from your experience at Wharton? Right? And like now you're designing the undergraduate program here at Masters Union. Sort of what sort of learnings from Wharton have been useful to you?
Okay, let's go one by one there, right? The first one I think is you learn by doing, right? So the classes where I was either in a simulation, right? So we had a class where we were like 6 people and one was a CEO, one was a CMO, one was a CBO. And we had to collectively take decisions and every class was a year gone by, right? So we ran a company for 10 years in those 10 sessions. And then I could easily see the decisions we were making as a team, what is the impact, and the class is kind of divided into different groups, right? So these are different companies playing in the same industry and you're competing with each other. Okay. So that kind of gives you a real-time exposure of this is how it's done, right? So I would say more experiential learning, and with today's technology, that can happen through simulations, right? So I think that was one for me, that it has to be practical. The second, I would say you learn a lot from each other. Right. Okay. So I think colleges need to take out that power of the different backgrounds of people and what the strength the peer community is getting and kind of let the students also learn from each other. I think that was the second. Third, I would definitely say is in the outclass experiences, right? So we had something called leadership venture, where for 10 days you could choose to go to Antarctica.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right, and just live there. Yeah. And there you would face very challenging situations, right? Like physically, but also mentally. And there, how do you lead a group, right? One person is almost like, let's say dying, not going to that extent, but somewhere like that, right? And how, as a leader of that group, you're saying, hey, like, how do I react to the situation? Or you are in a sea for 7 days and you have to just sail through it. So I think those kind of experiences teach you leadership, which classes cannot. Yeah, so I think that's one of the other things.
So tell us more about the undergrad program that you have designed. How you brought these outclass experiences and how you sort of institutionalize them into the program so that it's core to the program rather than just an ancillary thing.
Correct. Absolutely. No, I think I have that added advantage of studying in India as well as abroad. So I understand what's missing and what needs to be brought. And I also understand what's missing in even the best of the MBA colleges abroad, right? So we've done to bring the best and add more to it through my experience. A lot of outclass experiences we are adding. So one of them is Global Immersion Programme, right? Okay. Where what we do is that you have a choice of going to a country where you could choose to do multiple things, right? So if you are somebody who's passionate about community and social impact, you can choose to go to Ghana, work with a non-profit, work with the beneficiaries there on a project and use your business skills to increase the impact of that non-profit. And you're there 1 month, working with the non-profit and making.
So it could be like a Vietnam or it could be like.
Could be anywhere, right? We partner with
Mexico,
multiple
Russia,
non-profits.
Hopefully
across.
not Russia.
Yeah, not taking that risk right now, maybe a few years later.
Yeah.
So we do that. Or if you're somebody who's motivated more to understand how different countries and their cultures impact the macro policies and the economic. So we take you to China for 10 days, right? Okay. You go to Shanghai, you go to, Beijing, and you kind of meet the government leaders, plus you kind of meet the big corporate executives and all of that. And there you kind of understand, like how is China kind of trying to increase its impact on the economy of the world.
Sure.
Similarly, one is for Korea. So we kind of design these programs for you to understand, to have a global perspective rather than just have an Indian perspective.
But how do you think that helps like an undergraduate student? Like why does a global perspective help you in any way?
See, once you transition into the real world and you work for a company and you work with, and the assumption I'm making is that we want the Masters Union students to go and become leaders of these companies, right? Then no company is working in silos these days, and you have to know that, hey, if I'm making phones today and Russia and Ukraine are at war, what decisions do I need to make today so that 6 months down the line my company is not in a soup, right?
Yeah.
So I think global perspective is absolutely essential.
Actually, very interesting. I mean, because I spent some time in China, right? And when I was an undergrad, I did almost 1 semester in China, and I learned Chinese and all of that. And today, when we talk about startups and when we talk about fundraising and we speak about even the education system, most of the world does not understand China and all the cool things that are happening there, specifically in education. They have some great edtech companies that we would have never heard about, or at least I would have never heard about had I not spent time in China, right? So I definitely agree with you on the fact that, you get to know about very different and very opposing aspects of human behavior when you go visit a different country. And especially immerse yourself. If you just go for sightseeing, then I don't think anything happens.
Yeah. No, you need to really, I think, hear the people who are shaping that country and really learn from them as to what's happening and how they are thinking of leading the country and going.
I'll give you an example. So, when you speak English, right, you say 11 or 21 or 31 or 32, right? When you speak in Chinese, you don't say 11, you say 10-1. Shui. And if you say like 21, you actually say 2-10-1.
Oh, okay.
Right? And that's why when you do math in your head, when you're a Chinese native,
it's easier.
It's much easier.
Yeah.
Right? And that to me was like mind-blowing, right? I realized that after learning Chinese, my mental math improved so much, right? And that just opened me up to like a perspective I was never even like remotely aware of. And so that was so interesting. Another thing I learned about the Chinese language was that there is no grammar in Chinese. Do you know that?
No, I didn't know.
Yeah. So you can say, wo ming se Pratham, right? My name is Pratham. Or you can say Pratham, wo ming se wo ming se Pratham. Like, it's all like you can put it in any order.
Wow.
So there is no grammar.
Didn't know that.
And the entire language is contextual. Right? So the word ma and the word ma ma means mother and ma means a horse.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And so I love my mother.
Could also
It
go
could
in
be
that.
I love my horse, right? So it's so contextual. And so the way people talk is that they do a lot of guesswork as to what you're actually saying.
It depends on the tone in which you're saying.
The tone, the Shandong. It's called the tone, exactly. So ma and ma is 2 different tones. But a lot of people, they speak so fast that the tones are irrelevant.
Correct.
You're not able to enunciate the tones, so you just guess from the context what this person is talking about. And that has made, that has given some like different kinds of advantages to Chinese people when it comes to, when they work in business, when they work in technology, just the language that they speak. I mean, my larger point is that me spending 6 months in China really opened my mind up.
Yeah, and I think beyond that, not just opening your mind up, tomorrow, if 5 years down the line, you're saying, hey, I'm expanding Masters Union globally, you will not be scared to go to China. Absolutely because not. You know the market, you understand the people. And I think...
Your friends there.
Your friends there, you can, kind of be in touch with. And that's what also is an advantage when you do one of these global immersions, I would say.
Yeah. No, super exciting. So one is global immersions. What's the second?
I think industry trainings and industry exposure is just integral part of our program.
It is the program.
It is the program. If you said it very well, right? So starting from in the first year, we do first Paycheck challenge, right? These are 17.
Yeah, tell us more about that. Super exciting.
So it's called first Paycheck challenge, and these are 17-year-olds. I'm sure like all of them have been in the cocoon of their homes, and it's the first time they're stepping out. And we want them to be industry ready after 4 years, right? The very first one is when they go out and on their own try and earn their first paycheck. It could be running a dropshipping business. It could be helping an Uber driver increase their salaries or their income through looking at how the Uber algorithm works. Or it could be just freelancing as a creator or as a digital marketer. But the idea is that on your own capabilities, try and get the first money of your life in, right? And I think it teaches you a lot. It teaches you hustle. It teaches you humility. And it tells you how just the world of markets work, right? So that's first.
And this is done at the end of the first year, or like?
This is done at the end of the first year.
Oh wow!
When
So
you've
very
done
early on.
Yeah, very early on. You've just done your core courses. You kind of understand the basics of management, and now
It's like almost when you want to teach kid how to swim.
Yeah.
You just throw the kid in the water.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we are sort of thinking about, right?
True. And there's and you throw the kid out of the water, making sure the kid is safe.
Safe, of course. Yeah.
And that's what we are
You
doing.
have your
here.
safety net.
You have your
Sure.
safety net. This is the safe place. Try out what you want to. You learn about your strengths, what you're good at, what you're not good at, and then slowly in your second year, third year, build on that, right? So that's what we do in first year.
Just one point on this. There was this one class in my undergrad, which was also Penn, by the way, same university.
Yeah.
Where the professor would make us work in a McDonald's or a KFC for 1 week. Right? He's like, if you work as like a cashier or fry those like fries in KFC or McDonald's, you really understand how large companies work.
Yeah.
Right? How McDonald's runs 5,000 McDonald's outlets across the US.
Maybe more, yeah.
Maybe more, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
And to me, when I did that, it was like eye-opening to a different level, right? Because there were these checklists for everything. There were these processes built out for everything. There was software that even like was calculating how much mayo I'm adding to the burger, right? And I realized this is how large companies are created, through these amazing processes. I had never been exposed to that. So today, as I'm building Masters Union or any other company for that matter, I have that perspective. I think that 1 week I spent at McDonald's was super eye-opening for me.
And would you say that it also made you very detailed oriented?
It made me see things in a detail. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because
absolutely.
As a founder for you also, I'm sure, right, when you're running a big company where you have a lot of support, I think it's easier to miss the details. But to be successful as a founder when you're starting from scratch, I think it's important to know each and every detail of your own company, at least while you're setting it up. Yeah. And I think probably that also had an impact on you.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. And so I would recommend if, one of those things, it just came to, if one of those projects could also be students working in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Or a McDonald's.
Absolutely.
Or a bigger chain, I would recommend.
And I think the advantage we have is that we are right in the heart of the city.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
So absolutely, we can do all of those things if our students
There's a KFC right downstairs.
I know, and there is a McDonald's right across the street in Cyber Hub.
Cyber Hub, that's true. No, for those who don't know, we are based in Cyber Park, which is one of the largest freestanding buildings in the country, by the way. Someone just told me that yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So it's 3 million square feet, 30 lakh square feet. Just to give you context, the entire new parliament is like 12 lakh square feet. So this is almost like 3 times the size. And here upstairs we have BCG's office, we have EY's office, we have WPP's office, we have Bank of America. Am I missing any? I think like a bunch of 20 companies. Samsung is across.
Yeah, across you have the whole world, right?
Whole
you have Bain and Company there. You have
I think out of the 500, Fortune 500.
Samsung, everybody's there.
Samsung is right here across this wall.
Oh, okay, great.
Right, so Aviva's our neighbor here as well. So all these companies are there, so students can definitely sort of get that exposure as well.
Absolutely.
Of that. Okay,
it's the heart.
So first you were saying the first paycheck.
Yes. Now coming back to what we do next in industry is we do a lot of, in second year, we do a lot of skill development and leadership development boot camps, right? Okay. Which is the whole second year is structured to develop your skills and make you ready to then lead and be ready to work in the industry. So in skill development boot camps, what we do is we make you aware and skilled at the tools that are being used today, right? So whether it's Microsoft Excel, whether it's using the PowerPoints correctly, whether it's how to structure an email, whether it's building complicated financial models.
Real stuff,
not the Excel
not
or the
theory,
PPT you did in your school, but like real, how do you build complex mathematical models in an Excel, right? All of that, or whether it's using the design tools, right? How do you even design a prototype of an app? I think everybody should know it.
So basically hands-on, like training here in
Hands-on.
skills that are required as soon as you graduate.
Absolutely. So that's the skill development bootcamp. And in the leadership bootcamp is leadership retreat, right? Where we take you out of the campus for 3 days, right? It could be Himalayas, it could be Ladakh, it could be down south Kerala. But you there are doing a lot of leadership activities. It could be in groups, right? At Wharton, for example, we were in a group of 25 people. We were split into rich class, middle class, and poor class, right?
Okay.
And then the poor class people were given like bus tickets to say that this is all you have, figure out your food, beg for it, earn for it, do whatever you want. And the rich class was asked to build the rules for the society, and they were given a house, and
Okay.
it was up to them whether they give the house to the poor people or not, etc. And I think after 3 days, a lot of our answers on why everybody can't be rich and our theory about why everybody can't be happy just was in front of us, right? We could understand what are the roadblocks. Like, even if I had the power to design the whole society, it will never be ideal.
Sure.
Right? So I think those kind of things teach you a lot about leadership as well. We are doing that. There's another leadership bootcamp that we're designing, which is called the Jiu-Jitsu or a self-defense bootcamp.
Okay.
Right? So Jiu-Jitsu is a have you heard of it?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a self-defense technique where you actually learn that even if you're smaller and more flexible, you can actually outperform a larger or a heavier opponent than you physically, right? And I've learned it because I'm kind of a little small person and I really wanted to do it. And that's true in the business world as well, right? You
So
see,
like David versus Goliath.
yeah, how you see small startups and like in few times they just disrupt incumbents, and that has happened multiple times in the startup world, right? So a lot of analogs from there translate into the business strategy, right? So you learn leadership from there. So these are the leadership boot camps that we are doing in second year. In your third year, you do industry treks, right?
Okay.
So you travel, let's say you're really passionate about edtech, right? And you are saying that, hey, I want to build a career in edtech. Then you take up the edtech trek. You kind of go around India. So you go to Bangalore, you go to Gurgaon, Mumbai. You meet the CXOs of these edtech startups or the education companies and really kind of immerse yourself as to what's happening in the industry, what's required, what's the next disruption, and understand it in depth from those and build that network as well, right? So that's your industry treks. In the fourth year is the full year.
I like the smile that just came on your face as soon as you started talking about the fourth year.
Yeah, the fourth year is full on get deep into working, which is that, hey, this 1 year is all industry immersion. You're working with the company almost full time and learning from the best of the minds there as to how the work is done. So by the end of the fourth year, when you're actually graduating, you pretty much know what to do in the real world. And that's what we want to train our kids on.
Got it. So it's super interesting. You build a dropshipping e-commerce store.
Yeah.
You become a creator on YouTube. I'm sure you didn't say something about blockchain, but I'm guessing blockchain is in your plan somewhere.
Yeah.
You do the first paycheck. You do the leadership treks. You do the tech treks, and you work in the industry. So we spoke a lot about the outclass. So each term you have something fun happening as an outclass program.
Yeah.
And just to reiterate that your undergrad experience, my undergrad experience, your MBA experience, what we have noticed is that what happens outside the classroom is a lot more enriching. And even I think like if I were to ask anyone on the street what they remember from their college times, it will never be marketing 101.
Yeah.
It will never be some finance course they did. It'll always be what they learned
Outside.
Doing theater or whatever,
Absolutely.
right? So one thing is clear that outclass is going to be our huge focus.
Yes.
Let's talk about in-class and what the program actually is. We haven't addressed that. I guess we should have led with that.
Yeah.
But so it's a TBM, it's a Technology and Business Management program.
Yes.
It's the same program that we do at a master's level here, which we are now opening up to the undergrads, right? And so it's half of it is management or business side of things, and a large chunk of it is going to be about technology as well.
Absolutely.
So want to take us through that entire journey?
Absolutely, yeah. I think in the coming world, right, or in the coming decade, all businesses are technology businesses, right? You can't say that I run a non-technology business, right? It has to have an app or a website or whatever, and then data is the new oil. You need to understand how data and technology work, right? So what we are trying to build here is we're trying to create leaders of tomorrow who can lead tech businesses who understand technology, right? So your first year starts with basic core courses both in technology and management. So you're studying your marketing, accounting, macro eco, micro eco, doing all of that, finance 101. But at the same time, you're learning programming. It's important for a tech leader to at least know what the tech team is doing and what coding is, right? So you learn the basics of programming. You learn SQL, how the data is fetched. You learn the data structures, what the tech architecture is, so that when you are interacting with the tech team, you are not saying, hey, figure this stuff out. I don't know what this is. You basically
so you're tech literate.
You're tech literate.
You might not become a developer.
Yeah, but you know how to work with the developer.
Correct.
Right? And you're not being taken for a ride as well. Right. So I think that is important. So you do the core courses of technology, data science, and business management in your first year. Starting second year, you kind of have a choice on what kind of electives you are taking. So there's still some core courses that you will need to do, but then you can start, going into your interest. So based on first year, if you think that, hey, I want to get a major in brand and, marketing. So you kind of take electives in digital marketing, retail, branding, all of that. If you think you're more, going towards programming, data science, etc., and which is in great demand today, by the way, you start taking courses around data science, data analysis, what are the new age data tools, etc. So we have around 8 majors that you could choose to, take. You could take more than one major as well. Okay. So you could go in, as I said, digital marketing, product management, UI, UX design, data science, management strategy.
Finance,
fintech, and few more. But we have the whole buffet.
I think you've covered all.
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah, of course, most importantly.
Yeah, for all those, startup founders trying to get their hands on the startup.
Absolutely.
And, today, India is at a stage where you see 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds actually starting up.
And raising hundreds of millions, yeah.
Yeah. So I think there is no stopping. If you are one of those teenagers who's looking, sky is your limit. And if you're looking to kind of get that support, Masters Union is the course.
There you go. So we've spoken about the outclass curriculum. We've spoken about the in-class curriculum a little bit. But what is interesting is that there is one course, right? And you can choose your concentration at any time during the 4 years.
Yeah.
Right? So in India, generally you have to select your major before even you walk into the college, right? You probably had to select your engineering degree before you...
Yeah. And I just had the benefit of having an elder brother, right? So I knew that, hey, I don't like coding and I'm not going to take computers. So I was like, okay, let's just take electronics then.
Okay.
But had I taken computers, I don't know how my life would have been turned out, right? I just don't enjoy coding.
Yeah. Super interesting. So... But that's also a problem in India, right? You're made to choose your major on the basis of your JEE score or rank, sorry.
Yeah.
Irrespective of whether you really want to do that or not.
Yeah.
Right? And once you've chosen it, it's very hard to change it.
Yeah, it's only 2 to 3 people in my department got a chance to change their department. Yeah.
Right. And so I feel like those are almost like golden handcuffs. It's like once I'm handcuffed in mechanical engineering, irrespective whether I like it or not, I have to stick to it.
Yeah, you go
and I think that the fact that our program is so flexible and lets you sort of experiment with different things and figure out what you actually enjoy and then focus on it. I feel that changes everything. I changed my major 6 times in college.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I went in thinking that I'll do mechanical engineering. Right?
Because you were this Indian going abroad, so I'm going to do this engineering.
Of course, because I also have elder brothers.
Okay.
And they're like, of course you have to be an engineer.
Of course, yeah.
Right? And then when I went to Penn, there you have to take courses in, religion studies and, women's studies and gender studies and politics. And I took this course on politics of the European Union. Okay. It was listed as a course which was a very easy A. You can easily score a very high point. I was like, okay, I'll take this, right? And you know what? The way the professor taught us European Union, the politics of European Union, was by telling us about this new aeroplane that was just launched at the time called A380, the double-decker. Airbus A380, right?
I know.
And that's how we learned the economics of European Union. And you'd be like, wait, how can you learn politics by studying an aeroplane? The thing is that A380 was a joint project between 3-4 different countries.
Okay.
Right? And it turned out to be a disaster. And the professor used that example of a disastrous result as an explanation of what the European Union is.
Okay, wow.
Right? And I've till today not forgotten this. This was 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah, and look at the passion with which you're speaking of it.
And I was like, wait, this is education, right? This is so then I changed my major from mechanical engineering to political science.
Okay.
Right? And then every class that I took in political science was super interesting, but I still had a very mathematical bent of mind. I'm very logical, reasonable in my sort of arguments. Hope so. But when it came to the final capstone project that you have to do, my project was about how can I model, like actually create a computer model to simulate the entire Indian political democracy. Right.
Wow.
So I basically, created a billion agents, like to talk, to sort of personify the billion people.
Yeah.
And then gave each person or each agent a different personality, a different background, and then tried to figure out if I change certain behaviors or patterns or policies, how that would change the voting patterns of people.
Wow.
Right. So I brought in political science and I brought in
your engineering mind.
jobs, put them together, and it like blew my mind and it blew like many other minds in campus. And everyone had a story like this.
Of course.
Where they were bringing together two very different concepts and creating something very new. Like it's very, it's most innovation happens at the cusp of two different disciplines.
That's true. That's absolutely
Right.
true. And as we progress more and more, I think this is the requirement of the new age careers.
Like the Nobel Prize in chemistry is being increasingly won by like biologists.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
And the Nobel Prize in economics is increasingly being won by like behavioral scientists.
Correct,
right.
correct.
So that to me is super exciting, and the fact that we are bringing together tech and business, I feel like that gives students two tools with which you can create like anything.
Yeah.
Like a business or like
Absolutely.
Sorry, I get a little bit excited when we
No.
speak about this, but
That's the requirement of the future, right? Any new disruption, and I don't know when we kind of segregated the world around us into biochemistry and physics, but this is all man's creation and imagination,
It's our
right?
construct, yeah.
It's our construct. The way the world was given to us was never compartmentalized into different subjects, and I think it starts right from your school, where we say that, hey, I really like the subject and I don't. But the nature doesn't differentiate, and it's all concepts coming together that will create disruption.
One of the hallmarks of Masters Union is masters.
Absolutely,
right? The
yes.
practitioners who come and teach. And we have CEOs, MDs, CXOs. We even have members of parliament who come and teach. Policymakers.
Yeah.
And we have, of course, like traditional faculty as well. Because there are certain courses that are best taught by traditional faculty,
Yes.
and we have to maintain a balance between the two. And so we're also going to bring that to the undergrad program, where we'll have a lot of practitioners coming in and teaching. So all the courses that you spoke about, can you give a sense of like, what kind of practitioners are coming in and teaching what kinds of courses, so that future students sort of are able to visualize what their 4 years of in-class experience would look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So your core courses, right, your accounting or the basics of data analytics, etc., are done by our full-time in-house resident professors, because as you said, some courses are best taught by them and they've worked on it over years, right? And I think as we're dealing with undergraduates here, it's more important to get those basics right into perspective. So that's that. But apart from that, as you start to choose your electives and as you start getting closer to the fields which are real-time, right? So if you're teaching product management, you are going to get a product manager from Razorpay come and teach you, right? Or from another, high-tech startup come and teach you, because that's required. They're going to tell you that today what is it that you need to be a great product manager, right? Similarly, when we teach digital marketing, you have the best of the digital marketing companies, leaders coming and teach you, right? So it could be a Facebook executive or a Google executive.
We have someone called Siddharth Padmanabhan who comes and teaches. And you know what he does?
Yeah.
And this goes back to what you said about your digital marketing course at Wharton.
Yeah.
So the way he teaches is that he actually gives students like 5,000-10,000 rupees of budget and gives them a fake product that they actually have to run real ads for.
And they have to sell.
And actually sell. And your grade is dependent on what kind of conversion rates, click-through rates you were able to bring by spending that money.
And you use all the concepts that you've learned in his class,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
And another interesting thing is that, a lot of the times in undergrad programs, you learn theory or you even learn, let's say,
Yeah.
practical stuff. But you can only apply those things 4 years after you graduate. I mean, 4 years
Yeah,
after,
true.
just after you graduate. So by the time it's time to apply your learnings, you've forgotten those learnings.
Yeah, you've forgotten more than 50% of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll only remember what you learned in the last year.
Correct.
Right? And last year you were too busy partying. So nothing was, because you already had your placement, right?
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that has worked really well for us in PGP, and I'm sure we'll bring this to undergrad as well,
Absolutely.
is that you get to apply your learnings right away.
Right away, then and there.
And then they really sort of sink into you.
Yeah. Yeah, you understand. See, it's all about learn by doing, right? I mean, it's a known thing that you learn when you're doing something. There's a Chinese proverb, I'm forgetting it, but it's like, I see, I hear, but I really understand when I do it.
Correct.
Right? Otherwise, it's just you forget.
You forget. Or,
Yeah.
you just don't. There's another very interesting concept I wanted to speak to you about, which is this entire concept of curiosity, right? I feel like a lot of my friends who went through the undergrad programs in sort of maybe tier 2, tier 3 colleges in India, they lacked a sense of curiosity.
Okay.
Right? As human beings, we are inherently curious, but I
True.
feel sometimes the education system
Kind of takes that away.
structurally kills your curiosity because it asks you to conform to whatever is being told to you and not question it.
True.
What do you have to say to that?
No, absolutely right. And I won't even say that it starts in higher ed. It starts in school. I was at a education conference recently, right? And there was a panel of teachers discussing something. And then one of the teachers said that a child in their Hindi letter class wrote Priya Pitaji, right? And the teacher crossed it out and said it should be Adarniya Pitaji. And the child said, "Hey, you don't get to dictate me how I address my father and what my relationship with my father is, right? So it's equally right whether you say Priya or Adarniya. So I think it starts right from the schools rather than just only the higher ed, and that's kind of true, right? Like the way I hope it's changing with the new age higher ed that's coming in India. But yeah, for the most part of it, it's been very theoretical, very dictating what the right answer is.
How do we solve for that?
Because we don't have exams, right? And I think that's how you solve for
Yeah.
it. See, when you are having exams, you're saying, hey, there is one right way of doing something. But when you have a course where you are being evaluated on how you do things and how you apply your learnings, I think that's getting closer to giving that whole perspective of a complicated world rather than a black and white world of right and wrong.
Correct. I think that's a great way to put it. So when you're not tested on something that's written in a book,
Yeah.
then you can sort of throw that concept, or that rote learning aspect of it.
Correct.
No, that makes complete sense. We've been practicing this no exam theory in our PGP program for a while. We
Yeah.
still have some quizzes because sometimes students have to be quizzed
Yeah,
to make sure they
yeah.
come to class. It's more done as a way to make sure they come to class.
Yeah.
Especially the 8 a.m. classes.
True.
But by and large, we have shied away from keeping exams. We rather test them on real revenue, on real metrics they're able to achieve, on how their peers found their contribution to that learning group. So a lot of the marking actually happens as peer learning, which is also something.
And that's true of the real world as well.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Like when I was working at Bain,
Yeah.
A manager was rated not just about how the client thinks of you. We were rated about what the team thinks of you. And if your team, like your juniors, if they don't give a good rating about you, you couldn't be promoted. So and so you're doing absolutely the right
Stakeholder management, right?
Yeah, and that's how the real world. See, in real world, you are being rated on revenue of your company, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's asking you to give an exam and tell how much you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's super interesting. I mean, essentially, it's 4 years of what you would have done in the industry, done in a safe environment.
Correct. While you're still shaping up your mind, shaping up your personality.
One thing also I want to speak about, and I feel like most Indian colleges do a horrible job of this, which is writing.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like, having done my undergrad abroad, I definitely can write better than some of my Indian counterparts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just the truth. So, what do you think has been lacking in terms of the education we have currently when it comes to writing, and how do we want to fix it at the undergrad program at Masters Union?
See, at the school level, it will be all not really standard, right? Every school is different, the kind of backgrounds you come from is different, etc. But at least in the higher ed space, there isn't that much focus on writing. So I went to an engineering college. We did have courses on humanities, on communication, etc. But the kind of focus that I got on Wharton, where I had continuous writing and communication classes for the first year. And you know what, we also did a practice round where I had a teleprompter. So you actually role play as a CEO in a crisis, and you have to deliver the news to the team or to the media, and you have a teleprompter. And I was like, why are we doing this? And they said, hey, you're graduating from Wharton.
Yeah.
You will be at a place where you will be doing these kind of media things, right? So I think the focus is not there yet in India, which is there abroad. And gradually, I think some of the companies do a great job of teaching you. So for example, when I spent 5 years in management consulting, so I would also say that my writing skills and my slide communication skills are much better. But I don't think we are doing that in higher ed at all.
Okay. So how are we doing it? I mean,
so we are doing it by bringing the global practices that I talked about definitely here, and also bringing in the corporate training that happens on structuring or on communicating, right? So when I was in management consulting, we were very much taught on concepts like answer first. Like you don't say the whole story and then conclude. You say the conclusion up front, and then if the person wants the evidence and the detailed answer, then you give it, right?
Sure.
So that's one. And the kind of how you structure it better. Right, all of those things, I think it is going to be mandatory in our course that for the first full year, you are going to focus on your communication and writing skills. Absolutely, non-negotiable.
Yeah. One thing that we've done at Masters Union, and this will be accessible to the undergrad students as well, is the writing center. Right. So essentially, like the way you have a debating club, you have dance club, you have to have a writing club. Right.
Yeah.
Where students are sort of going beyond just their curricular writing. Right?
Correct.
Why can't students write books or articles for newspapers or articles for magazines or blogs or have their own podcasts like this?
True. And also I would say about business communication, right? Not just about the longer ones, but I think in the age of digital media or the social media where kids are just used to
short form content.
I think there's some part of business communication that's missing out, right? Like we, at least in my previous company, there was a lot of like smileys and informal emoticons being used, and the HR had to step in to say that, hey, you might mean something else, but like try refraining from those in your official emails, right?
Yeah.
So I think those kind of things as well.
I'm super excited for this, right? If we can solve for this aspect of making sure we don't kill their curiosity.
Yeah.
We can make sure they can write well. Give them an extremely hands-on outclass experience where they're getting to apply all of their learnings through Creator Challenge, through dropshipping, through all of these, and then in class we teach them what is relevant.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the wish list right there.
Yeah, and I think that all will translate into having the confidence of being able to achieve anything, right? And once you give that to a child, then I think sky is the limit.
All right.
Yeah.
No, this has been super exciting. I think we have covered
pretty much everything.
Most aspects of the program.
Yeah.
It's interesting that not a lot of people have thought of this in India. Right. There are some 800 universities in India, maybe more. Why do you think, and this can have a very controversial answer, why do you think it's not happened so far? Like what we are saying is not new, right? Like, people understand this. People talk about this. People love to complain about the education system, right? We had 3 Idiots and we had Tare Zameen Par and we had all of those. But why are universities still not woken up to the reality?
I have 2 answers to this, and it could be controversial. One is I feel that education as a business is still not a free market in India. right? So you still have the best of the minds going to probably edtech startups. But that we can create a university is never even a consideration set for an edtech founder, right? Because it's something that's under the government and it has a lot of rules, regulations, and licenses.
And you're talking from experience.
I'm talking from experience, right? So it's never a consideration that I can open up a university even if I want to change the education system of India. That's one answer. The second answer is that people who are running the universities, right, in India, apart from the top tier colleges, it's always a side business. Right? We run the real estate and we run XYZ, plus we have 2 universities here. Right? So then how are you ever going to give it focus or the right leadership, because you are always running your other businesses.
Yeah, this is like a CSR project.
This is like a CSR project. We do have good reputation because we have these 2 universities in XYZ city. But yeah, it's not something that's your bread and butter.
So, but I mean, like, there's another reality which we should address.
Yeah.
Why is it the case that, certain management consulting firms would only hire from certain colleges?
Because the input is there, right? So when I was at Bain hiring for the top tier talent, see, it's very difficult for me to be out there and open myself up to everybody, because then I need a huge hiring team. But the easier way for me is to say that, hey, I do know that smart people go to IITs, right? What they do at IITs is a different part of the problem. Now, if I know that smart people have gone to IITs, let's just go there, select them, then we'll train them, right? So it's just an easier filter than anything else.
Got it. No, that makes sense. Anything else that we have left to cover, Swati? I feel like this has been a very exhaustive conversation.
Yes. No, I think we should also talk about our industry partnerships.
Oh, yeah, of course.
A little bit, right? And I think, so I know in PGP, and I want to hear it from you this time, right? How did you manage to get pretty much all the big names? I think it takes a lot of effort to even convince big recruiters like Amazon, Bain, BCG to even come to the campus, right? So how is it that they want to come to the campus and select the candidates?
It's 2 things, right? First, what you're doing with the students in that 1 year that they're with you, or the undergrad case 4 years with you, is incredibly important. So here we focus on real skills. All the fluff that is taught in MBA, all the fluff that is not necessary and not applicable in the real industry, we throw it out. Right?
Okay.
That frees up a lot of time for us to teach very application-oriented things. Right? So when Microsoft comes to recruit at Masters Union, right, we know exactly what Microsoft's needs are. And the entire 1 year we have spent training students on exactly what Microsoft's needs are. We have trained students on product management, on data science, the way it's applicable in the industry. Right? And you know why that is the case? Because someone from Microsoft is coming and teaching.
So they know what they want.
Right?
Yeah.
So when the masters themselves from the industry are coming and teaching, why would they not recruit?
Absolutely.
Swati, if you train somebody for 1 year, why would you not recruit that person?
Of course I would.
It's a question on your training.
Right? Absolutely.
So part of the reason we were very successful in terms of placements, and we were able to bring every brand name possible from Google, Microsoft, Bain, BCG, it's only possible because it more often than not was the case that someone from that company was coming and teaching.
Okay. So they knew exactly what the
requirements were, right? So even though we did not have like an IM tag with us, or an ISB tag with us, which we have now built, by the way. But in the first couple of years, we did not have that.
Correct.
It was only because our students could stand on the legs of their skills. Right?
Absolutely.
Like concrete skills, nothing more than
Nothing
that.
else but skills.
Nothing else but skills. That's number 1. Number 2, we focused on 2 things: communication and writing. Right? To be very honest, we have looked at the curriculum and we have benchmarked the curriculum against IIMs and ISP and Wharton. We always felt that these traditional colleges have under-delivered when it comes to these basic skills of writing and communicating.
Yeah.
Right? How to write an email is not taught at IIMs. I'm sorry, it is not.
Yeah,
right?
true.
It is not. It's only taught at Bain or BCG, right?
Yeah.
So, we have a module on that, as simple as that.
Yeah.
Right. And we have someone from the industry who gets probably 1,000 emails a day, outreaching. So he comes and teaches, or she comes and teaches that. So we focused on first principle skills.
Yeah, it's as simple as when you're sending a calendar invite.
Yeah.
What the title of that invite should be.
Yeah. exactly like Pratham dash dash. So like,
Correct.
all of that
Yeah.
is incredibly important.
We
those
learn
things.
all of this in our jobs.
We should be teaching them.
Correct.
Teaching that in college, right? The third thing is that can you make students worldly aware? What happens is that when they are sticking to the books, they are very book aware or they are very curriculum aware, but they're not world aware. But the world requires world awareness. So if I am interested in getting into the finance industry, do I know what's happening in the world of finance? Probably not, right? But again, when the masters from the industry are coming and teaching, that's what they talk about.
Correct.
That's what they talk about. A lot of the times, the case study is the person who's teaching himself or herself.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So
they've gone through the whole story of that case.
Yeah. And finally, and most importantly, when masters come, they inspire, right? They walk into the class and you want to work to impress that master because they have an aura.
You don't want to let them down.
You don't want to let them down, right? And so because of that, people put in the extra effort. All of these things is what led us to beat even IIM Ahmedabad in terms of placement numbers.
Yeah.
Right? There is no magic one bullet, but it's a bunch of these things put together. And I can't wait to bring this to undergrad, to be honest. Right? I think we can make an even bigger impact in undergrad.